Less than a month until pitchers and catchers report, and there are still plenty of free agents available. Does it make sense for Detroit to go after anybody remaining?
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Wednesday, January 21st, 2026. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen. Every single day we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Welcome in, everyone. Halfway point in the week here. I hope you all are having a fantastic week up to this point, and hopefully we can kind of catapult you into a good second half as well. Today we are going to discuss, well, at the very end of the show, we're actually going to talk a little bit about Evan Petzold's newest report surrounding Scott Boras, who spoke out about the Skubal situation for the first time since the two sides submitted their arbitration numbers. So we'll end the show with that, but we're going to spend a bulk talking about free agents that are still available and whether any of them make sense for the Tigers to get. Now, I understand that a good portion of people are going to listen to me say that sentence and immediately roll their eyes and scoff. Maybe they will just even look at the title and just be like, you know what? I'm going to leave a comment before even listening to a single second because the Tigers are cheap and are not going to go after anyone, and they never make moves, and they're never going to. Maybe. I don't have a rebuttal to that. That is very possible, and that is very much on the table. Dare I even say on the position player side of things especially, that's likely. And on the pitching side of things, we'll talk about it again a little bit later, but we already know that the team is going to take into account how much they're paying Tarik Skubal before deciding if they're going to pay anybody else on the market that's a pitcher. So you might be right. But I think it's still at least worth a conversation, if nothing more than just to highlight what this team's holes still may or may not be. Where they could still afford to improve. I think it's a good exercise regardless of your opinion of ownership in the front office. Okay, cool. Let's start with position players, and we'll start with the infield specifically. Catcher, I don't even want to spend any time. They're not going to sign another major league catcher, at least. They might sign somebody to like a minor league deal, just for depth to have in the organization. They love catcher depth. It's an important thing, and they're very big on it from top to bottom across all of their levels. But they're going to roll into the season with Jake Rogers and Dylan Dingler as their two catchers at the major league level, and that's a solid duo. That is a duo that was in the top 10 most productive, just production from the catcher position in 2025, so no issues there. First base, they're not going to sign any of these people either. They have Torkelson. No matter your opinion of Spencer Torkelson, I would rather have him than I think almost anybody left in free agency, if not anybody. You can go after 40-year-old Carlos Santana, who's going to draw you, an 11% walk rate every year. Luis Suarez, if you're a big batting average, but it's all singles guy, he is a rather weirdly controversial player just because of, kind of goes at war with the old school versus the new school style of hitting. Alas, he's not going to be a Detroit Tiger. He is a terrible defender pretty much everywhere on the field, and they The Tigers have enough problems trying to get everybody at a position. They're not going to add another person into that mix. 38-year-old Paul Goldschmidt on the decline. Rhys Hoskins just signed, actually, on Monday. 42-year-old Justin Turner. They're going to stick with Torkelson. Second base. Not going to get anyone here. I'm not even going to go through the names. We're just going to speed right through this. Glaber, they kept. They didn't have to. They offered him a qualifying offer. He accepted. Shortstop. Now, going into the offseason, we had mentioned how shortstop was a place where I think the phrase I used was, in a perfect world, you would like shortstop to be improved. Unfortunately, this is not a perfect world. And the Tigers will not be signing a shortstop, at least at the major league level, this year. And, to be fair to them, I don't need Tim Anderson after, 3 consecutive terrible seasons or 2 consecutive terrible seasons. I don't need TA over, Javi and Zach McKinstry or whatever. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, I was more of a utility than an everyday shortstop, in my opinion. Not really sure that's worth, shelling out money to upgrade at. Third base is the first big conversation we have. Bregman signed. Eugenio Suarez, at the time of this recording, not signed. Everyone else kind of borderline major league caliber. According to MLB.com's calculation of wins above replacement, the third best third baseman available in free agency this entire winter was Paul DeJong, who has already signed a minor league deal with the New York Yankees a couple of weeks ago. Andy Ibanez, listed as a third baseman, signed with the Dodgers, obviously last week as well, which we discussed. So outside of those top 2, Yoan Moncada, if you want to take a flyer and hope for a bounce back. Kike Hernandez, playoff hero, got to get there first. So let's talk Eugenio Suarez. Former Tiger, a guy that a lot of people wanted at the trade deadline. I was a little bit more lukewarm on it. I think the way I described it was, if they announced that they had traded for him and the package wasn't ridiculously high, that I would have celebrated it, but I also didn't need it to happen. That is kind of my opinion of his free agency as well, but maybe even more reluctant. Here's the thing, man. I feel like we're at a point in the offseason where there's a handful of the fan base that just wants to do a move just because they really want to see a move happen. And I get it. I want this front office to be more aggressive. I want it to be more aggressive for players that will guaranteed have an impact, maybe even long term. Eugenio Suarez, if they signed to a 1-year deal, I would have zero issue with. Okay. Bring him in. He's 34 years old, 35. Go for it. Okay. Add some thump into your lineup, whatnot. That being said, there are enough flaws in Eugenio Suarez's profile where if the Tigers look around and go, we don't want to touch that, I am not losing any sleep over it. And I think that there is a lot of value in seeing what Colt Keith is going to become this year. If you sign a third baseman, which I want to, if you add, I should say, a third baseman, which I wanted them to do, mind you, at the beginning of the offseason, you have to make sure it's worth getting pretty much zero information out of Colt Keith this year. Let's talk about kind of a little bit more in depth of what I mean by that right after this. First, though, I've got to talk to y'all about our friends over at TurboTax. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert start to finish without the stress or guesswork. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life, and this year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever just to hand things off and move on with your day. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employment forms and work to get every deduction possible. You can upload your documents and go about your day and get updates right in the TurboTax app. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2, Locked On Tigers. Appreciate you all for tuning in, as always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We'll, of course, be back on Friday. Got some fun stuff planned for Friday. I think all of MLB Pipeline's prospect rankings for the 2026 calendar year will be released by then. So we're going to sift through that a little bit. We'll also have some more updates on the Tigers organization that we will talk about. So thanks for tuning in, listening to us every day. And you can become an Everydayer Club member for just $5 a month by joining at LockedOnPodcasts.com/everydayer, finding the Locked On Tigers show. Signing up, you'll get free ads free, rather, is the right way to word that. Episodes, as well as access to a members-only Discord server, which includes myself and other listeners all around all leagues, but also obviously specifically in the Detroit Tigers. Today, we talk about free agents that are still available and whether it makes sense for the Tigers to go after any of them aggressively. We've already gotten through pretty much all of the infield. The only position left is third base. We're talking about Eugenio Suarez because, in my opinion, he's the only third baseman available that you could maybe argue justifies giving Colt Keith no spot to play this upcoming year. Here's the thing with Eugenio Suarez. As long as he is hitting 40-plus home runs a year, he has value, okay? The second that he no longer is hitting 40-plus home runs, his bat has next to no value. And on top of that, he's a bad defender. So you'd be putting a poor defender at third, obviously no speed at this point in his mid-30s. He had 49 home runs last year. That's obviously a huge add. His slug was over 500. That's fantastic. To hit about 50 homers and have an 824 OPS is a testament to how low all of the other stats are. He had a 228 average, a sub 300 OBP. He did not walk a lot. And his strikeout and whiff rate, for all the same people that are like, oh, like Riley Green sucks and I hate him, Eugenio Suarez has almost identical whiff and K numbers. And he is older and a worse defender and does not hit for any average and doesn't walk. Like, it's literally just, you're getting this guy to hit bombs. And again, if he does, then that's great. And he brings value. And that's a beautiful thing that everybody loves, myself included. But if you sign him and he puts up all the same other numbers except with 29 home runs instead of 49, he's going to be like a 1.5 to 2 win player, which at that point, I'd rather they just threw Colt Keith out there and we can see what we have in him. I still believe in the upside of Colt Keith way too much to block him for somebody that might not even be that productive this year. And I think that that's ultimately why Suarez is still a free agent. I think that teams are kind of afraid. He's a one-tool player. Now, again, one tool was power, and he hit 50 homers. That's a ton, right? He's very good at that. But the second that that goes away, he's a zero-tool player. And that's a risk that some team is going to take. So if the Tigers don't have any interest in Suarez, I know that makes some people really upset and they just want to get somebody just to get a new addition. I get the frustration. I'm not like looking down on you for thinking that. That is totally fair and justifiable. I'm frustrated by the lack of moves and the lack of aggressiveness by this front office as well. But I think that there's, better avenues, maybe I should say, to take than just throwing money at a guy with that profile. That's kind of it for third base. Now, the overarching theme that I also want to mention is that we're not talking about trade candidates today. And there's still plenty of guys that are on the table and available to be traded before pitchers and catchers report in February. So this is not, you don't want to sign Eugenio Suarez. You must think that like third base is totally fine, or you must, have no interest in anybody else. No, we just went through the whole infield. I'm not sure there's a single infielder that they could sign that would make me like super excited at this point. Now, it's also important to remember it's January 21st. We did this exact same episode 3 months ago heading into the offseason, and I had a ton of people that I was interested in signing in the infield. But this front office hasn't been aggressive and has added literally nobody on the position player side of things. And that's really disappointing. So I think that this episode kind of highlights that point maybe a little bit as well. Let's talk outfield. Corner outfielders, not anybody that I love. I know there was some people out there that like kind of had interest in Tommy Pham. I could take or leave that. I think that really people are just looking for any right-handed hitting outfielder that you could add. Now, one that kind of jumps out the page at me and that I would not mind at all is Harrison Bader. And that's because Bader is pretty well-rounded and can give you value in a lot of different areas. He's an incredible fielder. He's like a Gold Glove caliber corner outfielder and still a good center fielder when he plays out there. So you have that going for you. He's also coming off one of the best offensive seasons, I mean, quite literally, that he has had in ages. And so I think that like with a high 700s OPS this year, a little bit more pop than I think he hit, 17 or 18 home runs this year, a little bit more than we're used to. He used to just be kind of like the fast, really good defender, but going to hit ninth, for the Cardinals and whatnot, and has had a couple of outlier seasons like that, but this year hit pretty well. And so if that is something that you are confident he can repeat, that's a righty that I would add. Even if his OPS drops 70 points, I'm still happy, dude. That's still over 700, still better than a handful of guys we were throwing out there consistently last year. You can platoon him a little bit. He's a good defensive sub. I think you can do a lot worse. Now, if you're not confident that he can repeat that, then don't go out and get him. Don't pursue him. But a thought. Cody Bellinger, is an absolute like stud. I mean, that'd be cool, but that's not happening. The Tigers are probably, he's a Boras guy too. I doubt that the Tigers have even considered for a single second going out and getting Cody Bellinger. I really do think that center field is going to be Parker Meadows and Matt Vierling until the wheels fall off and either Parker Meadows can't hit or Matt Vierling doesn't play or like proves he's not very good at center field anymore, or he can't hit either, and they just call Max Clark up. They're not going to spend big money on a center fielder. Some other guy like Miguel Andujar has been getting some hype lately. I don't think the Tigers are going to pursue him. Jesse Winker, another lefty. Not sure you need that necessarily. And then we're getting to like 38-year-old Starling Marte, Max Kepler, Randall Grishik. Like, you're talking about some depth guys. Maybe if there's a platoon bat in there that you like, so be it. I think that at that point you're kind of splitting hairs and you're just going take it or leave it with anybody. Pure DH is just never going to happen. This team, they only did it with Miggy for as long as they did because they kind of had to. This team and the way that AJ Hinch construct their lineups, his lineups, and the way that Scott Harris just, like kind of runs the show. They are not going to bring in a pure DH unless that guy is, the best hitter on the team immediately. Pitching. They might be done here too. Oh, I hate this conversation. It was my idea, I guess. I have only myself to blame. The thing is, I've said this a million times. I am all in favor of getting as much starting pitching as possible. And there's been rumors that they have interest in, like Bassett and who was it, Kopech or Giolito. There are guys out there that clearly the Tigers are not like against adding. A Verlander reunion has been like thrown out there. But I just can't stop thinking of the report that they are not going to decide if they want to bring in another starting pitcher until they know how much Tarik Skubal is getting paid. That is just so ridiculously absurd to me. It's 13 mil, man. Bo Bichette just got a deal that's $42 million a year. I don't know. I'd like them to go get another starting pitcher. I also think that Tarik Skubal was probably going to win his arbitration case, and I think that probably means they won't be adding at least major league caliber starting pitchers. They're going to go, diving around for minor leaguers that they think might have a chance to, fill in a stopgap if there's enough injuries or whatever. Bullpen, I think they're done. The only kind of asterisk on that is I think they're done with major league contracts. They probably will never stop signing like relievers to minor league deals with invites to spring training. They have we might have the biggest invite, like non-roster invite bullpen in the history of Major League Baseball, like that any team has ever had. We're going to roll up, pitchers and catchers are going to report, and there's going to be 1,000 people in Lakeland all just trying out to make the Tigers bullpen. And it's going to be a spectacle. Okay. So there you go. Was that super fun? Was that a super awesome 20 minutes of your day, of your morning, afternoon, whenever you listen to this? We just went through every single position on the diamond and came to the conclusion that they're probably just done. Okay. Well, let's talk about Scott Boras, shall we? We'll do that right after this. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment, Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in as always. Evan Petzold put out a great piece, as Evan Petzold does, on Tuesday morning. That was titled Scott Boras Open to Tarik Skubal Talks at Current Comparable Salaries. Essentially, this is the first time Boras has spoken since the two sides exchanged their arbitration numbers. Scott Boras said that he is willing to negotiate with the Detroit Tigers for Tarik Skubal's current value when compared to current players, not when only compared to arbitration eligible players, and using what he called an outdated number of David Price's arbitration contract from over 10 years ago, to be fair to him. This, if it happened 4 years ago, I would have a much different opinion on than it happening today. And the reason why is because as much as you may despise me for saying it, Boras is right in this situation. And the reason why is because we have now seen a handful of players over the last few years do this and win arbitration cases. We have seen Juan Soto get paid over $30 million. Now, this would be a record for pitchers, but the next one is always a record. That's just how, like, especially with, inflation and all that, that's just how baseball contracts work. His record's going to stand for a few years, and then Paul Skeens is going to shatter it in his last year of arbitration. You know what I mean? Like, that's just how it works. We have now seen multiple players go to arbitration in their final year of arbitration and win with a number that is picked that is similar to all of their peers and not just, oh, this is arbitration. I see so many people saying, well, it's still the highest arbitration offer ever. I understand that, and you are right. But the precedent has been set. And the second that happens, times change, man. And look, if the Tigers win this arbitration case, then any and everybody that said, like, Boras and Skubal are being ridiculous and the Tigers did what they had to do and that was the right move, then all of you are right. And the Tigers get the best pitcher in baseball for way under market value. Way under. They paid Alex Cobb $15 million last year to pitch 0 innings for them. And if they win the arbitration case with Skubal, they'll be paying him 19. Okay? They will get the deal of a lifetime for the last year that they will have Tarik Skubal on their roster. And that's awesome. That's great. And that opens the door, reportedly, for them to go out and get more help. But I think odds are pretty good that Skubal's going to win his case, which is also why I think Boras is sitting there like, I'm not going to go to you. I'm not catering to you. You have to come closer to my number. I'm not dropping down lower to get closer to yours. I still think it makes I shouldn't say it makes 0 sense to go to arbitration. What I want to say is I think it is really dumb for the Tigers to go to arbitration. Now, if this is all just agent talk and he's just saying agent things so that, the media creates a narrative so that, people like me, idiots like me in front of a microphone create a narrative for people, then so be it. And maybe, that isn't even true and he's not willing to negotiate and he's just trying to spin a narrative into his favor. You can say the same thing about the Tigers. Who knows? We're not in those rooms. Who knows? But I still think that taking the best pitcher in baseball after back-to-back Cy Youngs to arbitration in his walk year to talk about why he doesn't deserve as much money as he thinks he does is terrible business. And I think for a front office that has so adamantly cared about its perception amongst media and most importantly players, this is a bad look if it leads to that. Hey, the Tigers, it's great. The fans are great. The park is great. The amenities rock. Everything's good. They take care of you. However, if you do too well, they will not pay you your market value. And in fact, they're even willing to argue in your face that you're not worth as much as you think you are. There's a reason the Tigers have only gone to arbitration one singular time in the last quarter century. Once. It's Michael Fulmer. One time. We'll see. File and trial, I don't think applies to Tarik Skubal. I don't think it should. But I don't know. I guess maybe you lose a little bit of credibility on that stance if you kind of bend at the knee and end up negotiating. I have no clue. But those are Boras's latest comments, and I think we're probably going to ARB. I really have no faith that they're going to get a deal done before then. And that'll be either at the end of January or early February, right before pitchers and catchers would report. Now, Skubal's going to report and then almost immediately go off to the World Baseball Classic. So we'll see. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. And we, of course, will be back on Friday. A little bit more of an uplifting episode on Friday. We'll talk about some prospects, some other news and notes that are expected to hit the media here in the next couple of days as well. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. And I'll catch y'all Friday, baby. Go Tigers.